everybody, today is the second demonstration on building your pinch pot animal. And so today we're going to focus on adding extra features and figuring out the composition of your pieces. So these are the two big pinch pots that I slipped and scored together in yesterday's demo. And here's the two pinch pots that are going to form the head. Now I have to figure out how are those two pieces going to come together and what kind of composition am I going to have? Am I going to have a static competition or a composition where the head is right in front of the body, or am I going to do more of a dynamic composition where the head is on the side of the body and it looks like the body is kind of curled up? That's what I think I want. I want to do more of a dynamic curled up body. So I have my head shape and I'm going to begin sculpting it by pressing my thumbs into a part of where the eye sockets will be. And because there's air inside there, the clay is pretty yielding to my pressure. So I'm just using both thumbs to press in eye sockets, leaving the center part raised. That becomes the bridge of the nose. And that, just those few little basic pushes are enough to give me a sense of the head shape of my animal. So I'm going to be doing some scoring, slipping, and melding of each one of these pieces here today. And so you need to have your slip handy, some extra clay handy, your fork needs to be handy, that popsicle stick needs to be handy. Those are things that you need to utilize today. So I'm going to slip and score this head on the body of my animal. And so I need to slip and score both areas that are going to be touching each other. So I'm going to have the head touching on the side here so that I have a dynamic composition. So it's like little honey badger's head is curled and turned. Yep, so you can kind of see it's more to one side than the other. I've scored and slipped it. Now I have to meld it. So I'm going to roll a little coil of clay and press that coil around where the head connects to the body to make it basically kind of a neck. It's going to form the neck of my honey badger, but it's also going to give me the strength and the smoothness of melding. So now here's where the popsicle stick might be handy, because you can kind of get into that little crevice a lot more easily. So I'm using what's called a wood knife, which you'll have at school, but at home the popsicle stick will work just as well, or use your fingertips too. That's fine as well. So I've scored, I've slipped, I'm working on melding. I am going to have to pick this whole thing up to be able to get underneath it, to meld underneath as well. So I'm really trying to be careful, flipping it over. If you have an old rag, it wouldn't be the worst idea to flip it over and have it be cushioned on an old rag or a piece of foam. But otherwise, if you lay it upside down like I am, just on a hard surface, it may flatten out where you flipped it over, but you can always smooth and get rid of that flatness later. So I've added additional coils now so that I can have a coil going around the entire neck area, and I'm using the stick to meld it in. The stick does leave a little bit of a texture where it melds, so that I do have to get rid of that or blend that texture away with my fingertip. I'll also be taking a sponge to it at the very end to soften everything. So don't forget that every connection needs to be scored, slipped, and melded. And by adding that extra clay, you can see how much more natural the connection looks now. It looks like my little honey badger actually has a head that's connected to the body, and they're melded and smooth together. You can see I have a dynamic composition starting to take place where the body is going to be curved. So I'm going to make some of the other features that will be additive, sculpted additive features. This is going to become the snout of my honey badger, because honey badgers have a really sharp, pointy snout. And so I'm going to score and slip on additional clay onto the head of my honey badger, and I'm going to blend it in on all sides. So here I haven't added extra clay, I'm just blending the actual clay that I added on to meld it and integrate it into the head shape. So that's another fine thing to do with melding as well. You can blend and meld with the actual clay of the object that you're adding, or you can meld by wrapping additional clay around it and blending that. In this case, it seemed to make sense to just blend the little point of clay that I've added on there. So I really wanted to be well integrated with those eye sockets, with the bridge of that nose. You're going to have to pay attention to your animal's head shape, and you might alter the shape of your animal's head so that it's more pointy, maybe it's more round. Just kind of pay attention to the pictures you found of your animal online and go off of that. Don't just try and imagine it off the top of your head, but actually go online and look at real pictures of your animal. Now I'm starting to make some of the other additive features. I'm making the big features today. So I'm going to do its little legs, and because Honey Badger is sleeping, I am going to put the legs more on the side of the body, not under the body where they would be if he was standing. And I may not even make all 4 legs. I might just make 3 legs. And then we'll just maybe kind of pretend that the 4th leg is underneath his body. I don't know. We'll have to see as we go along. I'll make the 4th one and we'll decide if I'm going to use it or not. Now there's all sorts of little details like ears and eyes and nose and claws and things of that nature, but that's going to come another day. I'm doing big features today, and that's what I want you to do as well. Do big features today, big add-ons today. Things like legs, things like tails or wings, figuring out the head and getting the head added on. If your animal has huge ears, like an elephant, then maybe those will get added on today. But don't get bogged down in little details today, because there'll be a different demo video on how to do eyes and noses and mouths and fur and scales and all sorts of little tiny fine details in your next video. So I just slipped and scored on one of the legs, one of the Honey Badger's legs, and now I'm wrapping the coil of clay around where the leg attaches to the body, blending that back and forth. So admittedly it doesn't look a lot like a Honey Badger yet, but as you're adding these big features, you're just kind of laying the groundwork for what will come later. It's really not until you start doing the fine details that your animal really comes to life. So don't get down on yourself if you feel like it doesn't look a lot like your animal yet, because it'll get there. It's just, we're just roughing things in today. So I made this back leg really long so it could be coming from the side of the body under the head of the Honey Badger, so it kind of comes around and comes out from under his head. So I made this leg longer than the first leg, which in reality is obviously not the way that it is. Like in reality, one leg would not be longer than the other leg. But logistically speaking, I needed this second leg to be longer so it could reach from one side, reach under the head, and then reach all the way around to the front of the Honey Badger. So one leg is definitely longer than the other, and that from the bottom that looks really weird. But I promise you that when it's laying down, you won't really notice. And it'll look kind of cute that the Honey Badger appears to be laying on its paws. So while I have it up, I'm melding the additional piece of clay that's going to help hold on that leg. Think about how your animal's legs are going to go. Are they going to be curled up underneath? Are they going to be coming to the front? Are they going to be coming to the back? Are they even going to show? Like if you have an animal that has a really long tail, like maybe a cat or a fox, see, isn't that cute? Maybe the tail will curl around the body and then you won't even need to add legs because you don't even see them. So that's perfectly fine too. So now Honey Badger has its 2 little front paws. Okay, now it's time for the one of the back paws. And I need a little bit more clay. All of these bits of clay that I've been adding on as my additive sculpted features, they've been coming from small little pieces of clay that I haven't wedged, because I know I'm going to be working with them so much in my hands. My hands are going to kind of take the place of the wedging. So this is Honey Badger's tail. So I got to figure out how to do the tail. I love that in all the videos I watched of honey badgers, the tail is curled up in the air in this attack mode. And even though I know the tail wouldn't probably be standing up in the air when he's sleeping, I still really like the idea of having the tail up. So I'm going to attempt to add the tail standing up. But here's the difficulty of clay when it's in the plastic stage. It lacks structural integrity. We can't make it stand up on its own. So even though I've scored and slipped it, look at how it wants to sag down. So to eliminate that sagging until the clay is strong enough, you can make a temporary support out of clay, like you see me doing here. And as long as I don't slip and score that support of clay, I should be able to take it away without damaging anything after the tail is strong enough to support itself. So this would be good for flippers or for wings or for tails or anything else that's kind of too heavy to support its own weight right away. Once it's leather hard, this tail will support its own weight and I'll be able to take away the support. So I did have to remove my support so I could get in there and meld that extra coil of clay around the connection. So I'll put the support back in a moment. Another solution though, if your clay is just not cooperating, if it's too soft and floppy, you can just keep that piece for a later time. Keep it, wait till it's leather hard, set it next to your project, let it get leather hard, and then join it the next day. Join it once it has time to get a little bit stronger. So that's what I'm going to do for this tail. It just is, it's too soft right now. Now I'm going to join its third foot, scored and slipped. Blending my extra coil of clay, which I wrapped around that foot, blending it upward onto the body. Now the body is looking, it's okay. It's kind of just a circular blob. And so I'm going to think about what I can do to give that body a little bit more definition. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to draw on a hip. I'm going to give Honey Badger a hip. So just kind of laying it out and drawing it on is not going to be enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press down on the outside of where the hip would go. And by doing so, I'm pressing in what would essentially be the belly of the badger, and what I'm leaving puffed out looks like a hip. So I'm just using the popsicle stick, and because the body of my animal is filled with air, it's pretty yielding when I press down on it. So I just gave my honey badger a hip by pressing down the clay in front of the hip. I could do that and give him a shoulder. I can do that on the other side, so there's a hip on the other side and a shoulder on the other side. This is a great way, without adding any extra clay, to give it more three-dimensional quality and to kind of break up just that big fat ball that was making his body. Kind of trying to fix that up from a better view. Smoothing it up with my sponge. tail, even though I'm not going to put on the tail today. I just want to clean it up a little bit and then let it get leather hard. Still trying to decide what to do about that. So I really like the look of that hip. I'm glad that that turned out so nice. I'm going to have to do that with the shoulder and the hip on the other side too. Then, once you've added all your major features, so I'm thinking it's probably getting the head on there, whatever counts as the snout or the beak of your animal, getting legs on there, maybe a tail, maybe wings. When you've gotten all the major portions scored, slipped, and melded, that's all you're going to do for today. Then put the wet paper towel back on it, wrap it back up on your tray in your plastic bag, and that's it. Snap a picture, upload it to Schoology so I can see your progress for today.